Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Connecting Dots podcast. Today, I'm very excited to be interviewing a Toronto based tech superstar. Her name is Hafsa, and she has been a tech lead for about twice in her career already. So, with that, let's get right into it. How are you doing today?
I'm going good. So well. What about you?
I'm good too. Thank you so much for asking. So, first of all, I would like to start off this conversation by asking you about your current role of senior software developer. What does the role entail?
Sure. At the moment, I'm working as a senior engineer in HashiCorp. So that's a cloud-based company headquartered in San Francisco, and I'm working in HCP Vault. So it's a cloud-based infrastructure for secrets management, for like safety of tokens, certificates, and all that. So I joined this job in September last year. So been 6 months as a senior engineer and individual contributor in this role at the moment. And so far so good.
Okay, perfect. So, tell us a little bit about your role as a tech lead. Is that an added responsibility?
In this job, not completely, but I have been tech lead like twice in my previous history. Like I worked in Siemens, grew from a software engineer to tech lead. Then I came to Canada on a work permit, and then grew in TWG, which is acquired by Deloitte in Toronto. Grew there from software engineer again towards tech lead and senior tech lead, and in the end actually gave it up to become a senior engineer again. So my journey overall as a tech lead has been very diverse. Like it has been twice, and it has been an interesting experience for leading projects and teams of 6 to 7 overall. But from an experience wise, I think there has been a transition, because when I was a tech lead, it was like a 50% role of 50% you are managing team. I also like to code. So I was like, even if I'm managing people, I still want to code, during it. You know how we get greedy with coding. And in today's role, I'm very strictly towards managing my own work, managing small modules as compared to bigger teams, and taking them along. So that has been a very different transition for me.
So your journey is a little interesting to me. So I would want to understand, what was the decision-making process for you, when you decided to step down from the tech lead position and move on as a senior engineer?
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, my role always has been towards backend. So building APIs, building user facing web applications, all around throughout my career. But I always felt that gap, that I'm not understanding cloud infrastructure to that level. So system designs, which is the main thing, and this is something which only comes with experience if you work in that sort of industry. My end goal for me was always solution architect, but in my previous jobs, the products weren't that complex that you reiterate on the cloud infrastructure that much. I did AWS certification and stuff, but they are not enough to give you real experience of the field. So for me, I felt a need that that part really needs experience and working in that specific industry. And for that, a switch is needed, and you can't really focus on that much if you're just too much involved in tech lead responsibilities, because they sway you a little bit more towards team management and product management as compared to more towards core engineering. So I felt in order to achieve the last goal of solution architect, this is needed.
Right. So considering the fact that as a team lead, not only the fact that you're a technical person, but you also have to take your entire team along. So as I see it, that the team lead is also responsible a bit about the product backlog as well, I guess. Tracking down how much is done, how much is remaining for the quarter and stuff. So share your experience a bit. How was it managing them? And then, when there's peak time, there's no work-life balance. So share a bit about that with us.
Yeah, I think as a tech lead, specifically in industry in Canada, and I worked in a digital agency where we were being contracted towards different clients, and the tech lead on the whole is responsible for the success of the whole project with the product manager and of course the team. But you are in the center of ensuring that overall the whole backlog, everything project is on the success route. So if somebody asks me what my day to day looks like in a tech lead, I remember that I had divided my time 30%. 30% I really want to code because I'm greedy. 30% I have to look at PRs. I have to make sure that everybody knows what they are doing in the day. Everybody's like well equipped to do their, work job. And the rest of the 30%, either I'm working with the product managers for, taking the backlog, Jira, tickets, everything along, or either I'm like involved in designing the future work from a technical perspective. So, 30% goes with meetings. But this is not like every day it's equal, because you have to prioritize your work, or your coding work at the last. You have to unblock others for first. So yeah, it gets hectic, but it's an interesting job. Like, it develops your soft skills, everything, like at the most.
Yeah, perfect. So as a team lead, how do you see success overall? Because what I mean by this question is that sometimes you need to empower people. Sometimes you need to untie some knots wherever somebody is being blocked or something. So in your experience, what is the optimal recipe of success in this kind of scenario?
I think it's being observant. I think that's really important, because a team lead is not, it's a half and half job. Even if I've seen engineers who are like so great in engineering, who are really technical, but they are not the greatest tech leads. I think it's you have to have those sort of soft skills. You have to have that sort of patience with people, because in your team there are a variety of engineers. There are junior engineers who are just very new to the job. You can do something in 1 hour, but some person can take 4 days to do the same thing. So that patience, that being observant of everybody attitude, and still making sure that you are taking the project along and making the right decisions, everything comes in a balance in the end of the day. And I feel like experience is the key over there. Like, if you're learning from your tech leads, so once you will be able to practice the same.
Right, perfect. So once you had started in this leadership position, what myths had been busted for you?
One greatest myth that I think is like very common in Pakistan, but not really common in North America, is like we feel that the number of years of experience are very important in order to go, higher in their trajectory. That myth is like fully busted while being in, working in Canada. It's not really that. Like, you can grow as fast in the ladder as you like. It only depends that if you're able to showcase the skill first, then you get the promotion. So, that I think that myth was completely busted for me over here. Yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me of the Coke Studios' latest song, Piche Hut. It's like, if you're not competent, just make way for the competent people. Interesting. So I want to ask you about the kind of industry that you had been dealing with as a tech lead. So what kind of tools do you think had really helped you out in optimizing your job performance, I would say?
I think in my experience of tech lead, we were, as I mentioned, the digital agency. So every singular project was different. It was coming with its own, its own language, its own infrastructure, everything. But I would still say that one language which has really helped me in my engineering career is Java. I learned Java in the start, in the first year in 2014. And that really builds the base for, object-oriented programming. In Java, you are building APIs, you are going to interact with the DB, everything. And that core of OOP that is built through Java, like that really helps you in any other tool that you are learning for the backend. At least I think Java and Python are both in that perspective. And if you learn any sort of language like this, that would really help you, to go forward.
Right. So changing gears just a little bit. So you were a tech person back in Pakistan. You were a tech person when you moved to Canada as well. And building upon that, you had also been featured in a short documentary film. So share your experience about that as well. How was that, superstar?
In Pakistan for a job in Canada, like somebody approached me on LinkedIn. I gave the interviews. My parents were still unsure. Like, I had to show them the Google image of the office that this really exists. They were like, this is impossible. Like, till the moment I actually got my visa. So when I came over here, I was the first person they actually, sponsored from abroad. And being a girl, like, this was something big, and specifically, coming from South Asia, from that side. And I think they understood the importance of that thing, and they wanted to, document it and bring it out to the world. And BetaKit is a very famous site in Canada just for these sort of articles. And they set up like a whole team who shot me in few days, and they in the end, the result was a very pretty sort of like a documentary, which I would like save forever. Instead, I would I would like do a voiceover on it because my English is pathetic in that video. But
True
yeah, like
that.
overall
Yeah.
experience wise, I was like in shock when people of like CEOs shared it on their LinkedIn. The education minister or something also shared it, and that was like a big deal. It ended up like really big, and even Toronto Star featured it. So yeah.
That is pretty amazing. Tell me a little bit about if you have any cool traditions at work.
Cool traditions. I think in my last job, one thing was like in the Friday demos, like in every singular Friday, we used to share anything that we know. Like it can be a musical instrument, it can be like a dance, anything. And it like within those times, we even shared like about Ramadan. We even did Ramadan Iftari. So I think that culture and doing that every Friday, giving people to open up, that was like a really cool tradition. If I make my company, I will really follow it.
That is pretty amazing. Well, with that, have you ever thought of starting your own company though?
I have here and there, but I feel like starting your own business is it's a very big risk. And I whenever I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I'm not at that point. I can't take that much responsibility, so I just sway away, to be very honest. But yeah, like
Right.
I like people who do that. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big commitment nonetheless. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the academic side of things as well. So share your academic story with us. Like now, considering the experience that you have, what do you think should be improved in academia?
So I have an electrical engineering degree as opposed to software engineering. I feel like if I would have gone back in time, I would have actually enrolled in a software engineering and learned those subjects of like algorithms, data structures, operating systems, which I didn't at that time. And they came in very later to my knowledge, which was pretty late. So I think one thing which I would actually ask the individuals who are enrolling in a university or something is to make informed choice. People just have that name that, this is electrical engineering or this is software engineering. They don't know what is like a front end, what is back end, what is DevOps. So that sort of knowledge beforehand, and then making an informed decision is really important before enrolling in, which probably we didn't, because at our times, like doctor, engineer, electrical engineer, that's like the main thing.
Anyways, have you ever given a serious thought about pursuing another higher degree, let's say a PhD or an MBA, if you were to improve your business side of things?
So I have really thought about people who actually enrolled in like a master's or PhD, and then I have worked with them within different jobs as well. I think within specifically talking about software engineering, that's not important. I think here the number of years matter, at least to some level of companies. If somebody is going in Facebook and Google, yes, PhD does matter, because they are going in or they are building products for a very mass population. But in companies that I've worked in and to the level that I've worked in, I think over there, numbers of years of experience is the most important thing. So, nah.
Right. So in your opinion, is it worthwhile to stay within an organization and grow within the ranks? Or do you think, would it be more beneficial to take a route similar to yours where you can switch organization and get more external experience?
I think when you stay in one sort of organization, like in my case, I stayed in corporate for 4 years in Siemens, then I went to a digital agency for 3 years, and then back to a product company, which is sort of like a third type. And Siemens was R&D. So there are very different types which are tried and tested. But one thing which is certain, if you stay in one company, then yes, you can grow in leadership. Yes, and you can build on your soft skills, but there would be a limit to your engineering skills, because whenever you grow in a bigger company than the last one, you always go down, few levels, but then you are polishing yourselves to grow in an engineering core business. So like I think it's like a trade-off. Like somebody whose dream is to be a VP, a director, who just want to grow on the leadership side, then stay in the same company. But if your dream is to be a solution architect, a principal engineer, something like that, then you would have to grow in bigger and bigger companies in order to grow your skills. Yeah.
Right. So considering the fact that success is a moving target and it keeps changing with different phases in life, so currently, what does success look like to you?
For me, success is my self-rating. At every job, at every time within the last 8-9 years, I'm constantly rating myself. And I think at like this year in this performance, I'm 7 out of 10. No, I didn't do good. I'm like 8 out of 10. So I'm my own biggest observer. So I think I'm looking forward to the time that I stop doing it. I will feel more relaxed. So yeah, like that would be my success. Like that would be my end goal. Because whenever like a review cycles are starting, 2 months before, I can't sleep because I'm constantly thinking about it, how well I did. So yeah, that would be my thing.
So I mean, do you let work permeate into your personal life as well, or do you have like strict work-life balance criteria for yourself?
I'm really bad at this, like throughout the years. But yeah, I have had mentors who are constantly reminding me that being at a very high level of engineering, now that you have to be an example for the other junior engineers, that you don't have to work 12 hours in a day to be a better version of yourself at the job. If you have to learn how to do, a similar job in the 9 hours and do balance yourself between throughout the day. So I'm still learning that, and nowadays I've been putting like calendar invites in the start of the day, like start work, at the end of the day, like stop work, to maintain a good balance. So it's not the job, it's me that who is always like off.
Well, no, I'm sure that HashiCorp must be very excited to have you on board as well, considering that you're a very dedicated engineer. Anyways, share with us a bit about what kind of product or feature have you worked in your career that you're really proud of to date?
So I think there was one product that I'm really, really proud of, and I've like led that product as a tech lead. So that was a bail fund application. So, in US that there are a lot of funds which have money to bail, people in the jail, and to help them and the people who are just in jails due to like $200, $300 bails. And we built an application to manage their, request and referral from start to end, and help them to make the process faster. And I was leading that project for like 1.5, around 2 years. And like that is something that I felt like I had given back to the community. So yeah, that was pretty great.
Right. So considering, or I would rather say reflecting on the current tech/economic situation in Pakistan, I feel really proud as a Pakistani to see how much the startup world is flourishing over there. So in your opinion, how do you compare the two sides of the tech world here, like being in Canada and then being in Pakistan and contributing towards the things that they never had, versus here where we already have a lot of things established and we're kind of iteratively improving over things? So what's your take on that?
I think from like job wise, how there are so many startups coming along in Pakistan. I think they are growing their skill in a manner, because startup is the best place to learn, because you take so many hats over there. You're a QA engineer, you're also your product designer, everything, and they're not in very clear departments. One person is taking so many hats, so it's the best way to learn. And I think that would really bring out the level that Pakistan has on a faster pace. And also, like, one thing that I've been considering these days, that I hear about pays in Pakistan, and mashallah, like they are like reaching really high levels, that in Canada you are like thinking, why don't I shift back? I don't have to pay rent, so like it's almost equal. So so in both the ways they are growing. And
That is pretty excellent. So other than that, I really wanted to ask you that, you were a pretty good example of that. Like as you grow up in your ranks, then your interviews, I must say that they would start getting very different from the someone who's starting fresh in the industry. So what would you have to say to someone, let's say, who are interviewing for a higher engineering or tech position, that what is the, one of that essential ingredients, or what is a recipe of success in that case?
So for that, like, I feel like there are two levels of companies. Like, people who are very aspiring, they want to go towards like Google, Facebook, and then people who want to go towards mid-level companies. Mid-level companies are more closer to your experience. So those people will be comfortable giving it. But if you have bigger goals and you really want to climb to, the bigger ones, then the recipe is like read about algorithms and data structures books. Even if you did in university, they are going to come back and hit you. Go towards lead code, try to do problems. And other than that, so that's like an interview prep. But the other thing that I really want, the young people who are just freshly getting out of universities is like really, if you're looking for a back-end role, there are two subjects that you should be fond of. That's like database management, and the other one is data structures. So these two will be very handy in clearing any sort of like interviews, anything, because for a young professional, this is one of the biggest things which are missing. Yeah.
So how do you compare this current development work with that of an architect work that you were kind of aspiring towards?
So if I look back in my career, I have been a backend engineer. The role that I'm going towards, it's a mix. It's a backend engineer and / DevOps. So it's a mix of two. So sort of we can name it as a cloud engineer in the end. So how is it different in the backend engineer? I think we are limited towards like, building APIs, like building user-facing interactions with your web application. But where like a solution architect comes in is like building distributed systems, finding solutions of like taking a mass system from one level to another level and still thinking of ways to improve it. I feel like where I was at a level in backend role, like in a previous job, was like I can build a system, but I cannot tell you how to improve it because I would be going by the books of like my AWS certification of solution architect, but I'm not at that level. But where I'm going towards is like I want to be the person they ask all those questions, those problems, So yeah.
Right, that's pretty cool. So transitioning towards the fun side of conversation, I would want to ask you what things excite you in life in general.
I think I'm thinking, like new technologies probably, if I'm just working on Java in like 4 years, I would be like bored and I would be kind of done with it. So, just translating technologies, like trying something, giving it off and using the same like, core knowledge in something else, like that transition, that is kind of been an exciting part of my career.
And now considering that that tech is essentially permeating through all of the phases of life, let's say we have smart thermostats and bunch of sensors around our home, cars and whatnot. So what's your favorite piece of technology that have really, made your life easy?
To be very honest, I'm the least tech savvy person in like home, like at home. I don't even have a Google Home. I do have Nest, which is in my apartment, but I never used it. So I think my introduction is if I want a closed laptop, I don't want to, think about or, program anything. But I have had friends who are not even like, in this field, but they have even programmed their home through Philips lights. So yeah, like I try to stay away. I'm like more into cooking, like more, because that's like therapy for me,
All right. So what's your favorite dish that you love to make, or I would say that you are an expert at?
I have been making biryani from the last 2 weeks, just perfect it. So I think it's going towards there. Like my friends love it. So I'm a caterer for my friends. Like when I'm not coding, I'm just cooking all the time. And
Right. That is pretty awesome. So as a tech person, I want to ask you, how do you see world 50 years from now?
So I have this thing that I discuss with my finance friends that, there is a time in an industry where people don't understand your job and you're just getting money because it's a thing which is a black box. So in the previous years, it was like investment banking. What do they do? Like pay them high. in today's world is software
Yeah.
engineering. But in 50 years, you know how boot camps and everything are coming in North America, they would come in Pakistan, they would come everywhere, that people not necessarily need to have a, you know, software engineering degree or electrical engineering degree to work in this field. And I think our pays will get less and more software engineers will come in. Tech will always be there, you know, this can never go away. But but we would have a lot bigger number who would be part of the industry. And like, I don't know how Meta is going to work with, you know, that AI space that they have been building and NFTs. I'm not really sure about that, but I think the number would be greater.
All right, that's pretty awesome. So my last final question of the session, although you're still pretty young, but what advice would you give to your younger self?
I think I will go back towards informed choice. I think I started off as an aeronautical engineering in Air Force. I translated to electrical engineering. I translated to software engineering. It's like so many transitions. I wasn't focused, you know, like what exactly do I need? I didn't even know what is CRUD or an API when I joined a job, like just out of nowhere. So I feel like being more informed, taking the right steps, and, you know, focusing on the right bigger things, that would be something that if I knew, I would have done that, but I wasn't that informed. Yeah.
Well, with that, I'd like to close off our conversation. Hafsa, thank you so much once again for being here with us. This podcast is going to be hosted on all major platforms. And if you like the content, feel free to share it with your friends and family. And most importantly, provide us with your feedback in the comments. With that, we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.